Remember, Boo-Boo, we only have one weakness.
What's that, Rat Pfink?
Bullets.
Now, baby, I've been doing some thinking. Somebody harder thinking about you. And it seems to me you love no matter what you've been doing. It's playing me for so cool. I got the word for you because it's what you is. You is a rat face. You is a rat face. If I had a nickel for every time you've let me down, you know beyond the shadow of a doubt, I'd be the wealthiest man in town. I've got my name for you because it's what you is. You is a rat face. You is a rat face. Guitar player's a rat face. Yeah, 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 yeah. Don't you think I know what you've been doing to me, baby, that you dating all the guys are not true. So how can you say that you will love me then? How can you ever be so true? I've got the word for you because it's what you is. You is a rat face. You is a rat face.
Well, let's start with the title of this film. Rat Fink a Boo Boo. It's kind of odd sounding, isn't it? The popular story is that a mistake was made by the artist with the title card on the film. Supposedly, they forgot to put in the N and D for the word and, a key word that would make the title seem a bit more rational sounding. But the filmmakers didn't have enough money to go back and correct it, and the film was stuck with this now unusual title. Now, this is the popular story you'll always read attached to this film. The director, Ray Dennis Steckler, later denied that the title was a slip-up and maintained that this was what he had planned to call the film all along. Whether you want to believe that or just think it's an excuse to save face, the title is still pretty strange. Steckler was best known for his low-budget cult films such as The Thrill Killers and The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed-Up Zombies. He gained a certain amount of success with the popularity of drive-in horror films in the 60s. Rat Fink a Boo Boo initially began with $20, a few rolls of film, and Steckler's desire to shoot something. The first thing shot was a musical sequence with Ron Haydock around a pool. Haydock was credited under the pseudonym Vin Saxon. After that scene was filmed, no one was sure what would come next. Subsequently, a story evolved based on a true incident that happened to Steckler's ex-wife, of her getting harassing phone calls. The first half of the film is a suspense drama of a woman played by Carolyn Brett, Steckler's real-life girlfriend at the time, who is targeted by a gang of hoodlums whose signature weapons are hardware tools. The story is punctuated by several musical sequences, including the pool number that feature Ron Haydock as rock star Lonnie Lord. Things soon progress further than just harassing phone calls when the gang kidnaps her and demands $50,000 for her safe return. Lonnie and Carolyn's gardener, Titus, played by Titus Twimbly, are left wondering what to do next. At this point, the film, which already has been an unusual mix of genres, unexpectedly shifts gears by Lonnie and Titus revealing themselves as the superheroes Rat Fink and Boo Boo. They go after the hardware gang and save the day. Yeah. Again, this is the story I've heard. After shooting some of the suspense scenes, Steckler was unhappy with how it was turning out and grew bored with it. He decided the film needed a change. Now, he had always been a fan of the old Batman serial adventures. He watched them when he was little, and they always stayed with him. He actually tried to get the rights to the Batman characters for a musical he had wanted to do. So when thinking where this film should go, he decided to introduce his own Batman and Robin-type superheroes into the story. It is an unexpected surprise. The behind-the-scenes stories are much more interesting than the film itself. The film isn't just low budget, it's practically no budget, as indicated by the utter cheap-looking costumes our heroes are wearing. Yeah, that's a ski mask. First, I have to say I admire a filmmaker who is so passionate to want to make their film that despite having no money, says screw it and does it anyway. Hopefully the lack of funds motivates the filmmaker to get more creative and demands from them more imagination to compensate. You gotta figure if you have all the money to do anything you want in a film, it's not always the best thing for the creative process. Smaller independent and low-budget films can be much more interesting than the typical big-budget blockbusters, and a lot of times they are. Unfortunately, Rat Fink a Boo Boo isn't one of those times. I mean, the film is more of an oddity than anything else. You're sitting there wondering, what am I watching? The first half of the film isn't awful. There's some nice black and white photography, some nifty editing. Carolyn Bratt, who plays CB, is attractive to look at, and some of the music is pretty good. There's a prolonged stalking sequence that starts to ratchet up some suspense. The film was shot silent, so all the dialogue was later dubbed, and not perfectly. It can be somewhat off-putting. Fortunately, the amount of times you see an actor's mouth and hear them speaking is fewer than not. That's how they got around that problem. But when the big reveal comes in at about 40 minutes, that's when the film lost me. Other than the joke of these guys revealing themselves as discount rack superheroes, there's not much else. And the surprise of that joke is only good for about a minute, maybe? Actually, once you know that joke, there really isn't much in the second half of the film to keep you there. This sudden 180 in the story makes this a real disjointed and clumsy-looking effort. The second half is really padded. Scenes go on and on and on. The fight scenes, which are not choreographed and pretty silly looking, go on way too long. I mean, once you see the actors pretend to fight once, you kinda get the idea. Doing it a second time doesn't add anything to the excitement or comedy. The fights look like something the neighborhood kids would be doing on a boring Saturday afternoon. The big chase of Rat Fink and Boo Boo riding a motorcycle to catch the bad guys feels endless. It basically goes like this. Shot of the bad guys driving, shot of Rat Fink and Boo Boo riding. The sequence doesn't stray too far from that and is not put together in a way to add any build-up to it. The only surprise in the climax, after another dull fight, a guy in a gorilla costume shows up. I'm saying it's a surprise, not that it's a good one. After being triumphant, Rat Fink and Boo Boo get honored with a parade. Steckler and the actors just snuck themselves into it, so some of the expressions on the parade watchers' faces are kind of amusing. And then a final musical number ends the film. This film is a very surreal experience. It's kind of interesting to know Steckler was basically making this up as he shot it, and just went with what he thought was a good idea at the time. That's a very expressive approach to filmmaking, but that approach doesn't always result in a good film. I know there are fans who love this kind of stuff. I mean, I can get a kick out of some bad films, like, Ed Wood stuff, and could enjoy MST3K laughing along with them at bad movies. I mean, if you got a bunch of people together and throw this on, it could result in some head-shaking laughs. If you're a fan of bad cult films, then, this is for you. If you can revel in the sheer stupidity and illogic of it and enjoy it, and you know who you are, then go for it. There must be fans of this flick. It got a DVD release, so they must have expected someone to buy a copy. I think it takes a very specific type of fan to really enjoy this kind of thing. This is not for the average viewer. For the majority of people, I would tell them to stay away from this one. It will probably feel like a complete waste of time to sit through.
Rat Fink and Boo Boo, the leaders of today, building the leaders of tomorrow.